Mr. Joshua said something about being afraid, and that's the first time I've done that, being afraid of Alan Chasley. I don't think we are afraid of Alan Chasley. How could we be afraid of a man who has lost even an election in the Hotel Association? How can we be afraid of a guy who the last time he went for elections he lost? You know what we are afraid of? We are afraid of his policies. We are afraid of what can happen if that disaster befalls the people of St. Lucia. That is what we are afraid of. We're not afraid of any man. How can Dr. Anthony be afraid of Alan Chasley? But they tell you, you must not attack Alan Chasley. But from 1996, they've been attacking Kenny Anthony all the time. Every day, every second. But you must not say anything about Alan Chasley. Comrades, there are no sacred cows in politics. Once you enter politics, you have to deal with what politics gives you. And we will not allow Chasley to lie, to insult people. Chasley par doctor, Chasley do as radio, he does not take constipate. But nobody says anything. Nobody will say anything about it. No one will say anything about it. Chasley said that the Labour Party was convicted. Convicted of what? The only person in the politics who I know that the court has said is not a credible witness is Alan Chasley. That's the only person I know. Chasley was on radio in Vieux, last week in Vieux, saying that we have to pay VAT on tours taken by cruise ships. Blatantly standing up in public and telling the people of St. Lucia that they have to pay VAT on tours that cruise ship people make when they come to St. Lucia. When on the Tuesday before, we had just passed in the Parliament a resolution saying exempting tours from VAT for the next year. But no one must say anything about it. Allow that to go, allow that to pass, because it's Alan Chasley. I'll tell you what, if a man is a liar, you must call him out. Liar! If a man doesn't speak the truth, what is he? Liar! Right, so what is Chasley? Who did this happen? So comrades, even you fall in the trap too. I got BB messages before I came here. A lot of them telling me don't mention Chasley name. I mean, what kind of nonsense is that? A man has put himself up front in the politics. You want to mash up people's bridge. You want to say all kinds of things about people. You want to call ministers pretend ministers. You want to say all kinds of callous things about people. And you want us to just sit down and lie down and take it. And that's what you're telling us to do? Just lie down and take it and say, comrades, if Chasley doesn't want us to attack him, he should leave the politics of St. Lucia. Once he's in the politics of St. Lucia and he continues to lie and blaspheme the political leader and the members of the St. Lucia Labour Party, the Labour Party will take him on. Once he continues to lie, we will take him on. And we must not back on that. We mustn't back on that. We mustn't be afraid. Don't let people tell you, you're afraid, you're scared, you can't even have a Chasley. Chasley must say anything he wants about us. Anyhow, enough for that.
You continue to show that you understand what it means to have people of substance to represent you. Because think about it. Anytime you're in difficult situations, you need good leadership. And at this point, St. Lucia finds itself at a point where leadership is important. Not just anybody who wants to be a leader, but persons who can prove that they will take decisions that will benefit the country. And this is what your parliamentary rep, Dr. Anthony, has done in this time as he's come back as Prime Minister. That that the country has some hard decisions to take. But at least you have a leader who's resolute enough to take the decisions, though it might be difficult, but these decisions will redound to the benefit of the country in the future. You know, Philip JP has said Dr. Anthony has been vilified. I don't think you can read any newspaper in this country and don't read an article that purports to talk about something and Kenny Anthony is not the main character in that article. You know, sometimes I call him an investment, but I'm okay. Because for me, there are so many articles that purport that they're going to discuss a particular issue in this country. And at the end of the day, by the time you read the first paragraph, the next point of discussion is Kenny D. Anthony. But I think good persons who show their mettle are always going to be put up for scrutiny, and that's what Dr. Anthony is in this country. It takes a prime minister who has a conscience to look at a country where he's trying to cut down on spending, but still tell parents that in hard, difficult times, he will still give them $500 for every child who goes to school. You know, it is not just to do it. You write it in a manifesto. A manifesto is supposed to be what you tell the country you will do. And that's how people are going to know whether you're a man or woman of your word. You put it in a document, and that's exactly what he's doing. It says every child will write the common entrance in this country, irrespective of creed, color, skin color, whatever you call it, they will get that $500. There is nothing in the Ministry of Education that asks any child, what's your political persuasion? But we recall in 2011, there were monies given in all the constituencies, but the first criterion, well, it was a criterion there, it was saying, what is the political persuasion of your parents?
My brothers and my sisters, on a very serious note, a man who has no respect for the working class cannot be tolerated in the politics. Alan Shasney was one of the key players who prevented the labor code from being passed between 2006 and 2008. Because they want to hire and fire based on the way they feel when they get up in the morning.
Right.
And Alan Shasney took that same attitude to the public service when he was a minister, believed that he can do whatever he wants. For the Tuxedo Villa matter, he walked into cabinet that day without a cabinet memo. Without a cabinet memo. A man who has no respect for the laws of this country, no respect for the Constitution, cannot be Prime Minister of my country, because I intend to live there and my children all the days of our lives. I was the first to establish Shasney as a liar in this country. I remember after the 2006 elections, you remember that problem between American Eagle and Liat? He lied about Liat and British Airways having no pro-rate agreement. I demonstrated very clearly and established that he lied. And you know what? I did indicate at the time that Alan Shasney, before politics and when he entered politics, is resentful of Caribbean nationalism, independence, and self-determination. And I was right. Because as he became the leader of the UWP, he is using that newfound position as a pinnacle from which to wave the banner of his European origin, signaling to America his skin color. Little did Shasney know, America has gone past that, because today race doesn't matter in America. We have a black president in America. You know, I came from Argentina, and I heard a news clipping where Alan Shasney is asking PM Anthony to go and apologize to Washington. That he did not run and the foreign minister didn't run to Washington. We communicate with Washington all the time. We do not have to take a plane ride like Alan Chasley used to do all over the place and go to Washington every time. You do not just leave St. Lucia and go to Washington. If you are not organized, if they are not prepared to receive, you're not even the janitor you can talk to. Who is he going to talk to when he goes to Washington? We dialogue with Washington, not only in Washington. There are the Summit of the Americas, we dialogue with the Americans. There is annual OAS meetings, we dialogue with them. We dialogue with them, they have an embassy in Barbados, we dialogue with them. Sometimes they come to St. Lucia, we have dialogue with them. So I don't know where he got this thing from, that we have to go to Washington. But I believe Alan Chasley is the one to apologize to the US. You know why? Because he has underestimated the sophistication of the diplomatic machinery of the US. What do I mean by that? The US knows everything about every country. And the US knows that Alan Chasley was part of a government that had no respect for law and the constitution of this country. The United States is abundantly aware of the fact that Alan Chasley was part of the task force which gave instructions to the police. They know that. Another reason he should apologize, because the US made it clear about human rights issues. They made it clear that's the issue at this point in time. Alan Chasley said, no, it is because of ALBA. The US is saying it's because of human rights issues, and you, Alan, taking it on your own, contradicting the US and saying no, as if the US is lying about it. They are talking about ALBA. How can it be ALBA? When St. Vincent and the Grenadines is part of ALBA, they never prevented anybody from going to the United States on training. Dominica is a member of ALBA. Why didn't they stop them? Antigua and Barbuda, a member of ALBA. Why didn't they stop them? So Alan Chasley does not know what he's saying. But you see, my brothers and sisters, political lunacy is always a very dangerous thing.
And so, my brothers and sisters, we have a leader who has been tried and tested. And we are lucky to have this leader. Because when that leader made decisions about VAT and about the subsidy, others would say only a madman would do something like that at that time. But his foresight and vision had him to put country and the economy before his own political survival. Every other leader would have been scared. Kingdom them were scared of VAT. But he took the bold decision and implemented VAT. But slowly and gradually the rewards are oozing out and coming to us. And as it unfolds, every one of us will see the better days. And so Vieux, bravo to Vieux. Great conference. And Brother Alva, I allow the gentleman to burn up himself. He is self-destruct. And if I can render a hand of assistance to him someday, I will not hesitate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Prime Minister and political leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party, Honorable Kenny D. Anthony. President of the Senate, Honorable Claudius Francis. Deputy Prime Minister and Deputy Political Leader of the St. Lucia Labour Party, Honorable Philip J. Pierre, Brother Philip J. Pierre. General Secretary of the St. Lucia Labour Party, Mr. Leo Clark. Former Prime Minister, Honorable Vaughan Lewis and Mrs. Lewis. Cabinet colleagues and Labour Party members of Parliament. Chairman Emeritus, Mr. Tom Walcott. Chairman, Brother Wayne Cumberbatch, and members of the Vieux Constituency Group. Members and supporters of the St. Lucia Labour Party. Members of the media, bon après-midi. First of all, allow me to thank the Member of Parliament for Vieux South, our Prime Minister and political leader, Dr. Kenny Anthony, and the Vieux South Constituency Group for inviting me to be the guest speaker at this constituency conference. I've spoken in many different places, in several countries, on a range of subjects. But as the Prime Minister was reminding me this afternoon, This is my first speech at a political conference. It's my debut speech. And I can think of no better place than the constituency represented by our Prime Minister to deliver this debut speech. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, the theme of today's conference is the St. Lucia Labour Party, united to face the challenges of our time. In that very well chosen theme, there is one clear message that the Vieux constituency group wishes to get across to all of us. We need a united, a unified party to be able to successfully confront, but not just confront, overcome the challenges that are facing our country. So in speaking to you today, I want to look at briefly some of these challenges and identify the steps that our party, the St. Lucia Labour Party, and our government is taking to address them, and have a conversation with you about the importance, and I pause to welcome the chairman of the St. Lucia Labour Party, Yes, I want to take some time to have a conversation with you about the importance of keeping that unity and sense of purpose going if we are to not just face these challenges, but to put them behind us as we become a successful and productive country and people. Brothers and sisters, there's a well-known saying that if you do not know where you're going, any road will take you there. That is certainly not the case with our government. Fortunately, the Labour Party government that is being led by Dr. Kenny Anthony, and in which I have the honor to serve with some very fine, committed, dedicated, hard-working men and women, very early on in our blueprint for growth, explained that our goal was to build, and I quote, a better, stronger, more resilient St. Lucia for everyone. This is our goal, our mission in government. But achieving that goal is not easy. There are several problems and challenges confronting our country at present. Some of these are internal to us, some of these are external to us. As a government, as a responsible government, we cannot pretend that they do not exist. We cannot sweep them under the carpet or hide them behind a box somewhere and move on. We have to deal with them. There's an old Haitian Creole phrase that goes, "D'lo paka jabe tout." I don't know if you know what that means, but it means basically that water cannot jump over a hole. When water finds a hole, it has to go into that hole, fill up that hole, and then move on. And basically that is the challenge confronting us as a government. When we find the problems in government, we have to deal with these problems, address these problems, and then move on. L'eau pas qu'à jamber tout, et nous même pas ça, mettez ces problèmes ça là derrière, nous pretend comme si nous n'étions pas là, and then just faire ça nous voulons. We have to deal with the problems, and that is what we're doing. One of the biggest challenges in front of us right now is the state of our economy. The situation St. Lucia finds itself in is not unique to our country, as has been explained repeatedly by our Prime Minister and other members of Cabinet. Unfortunately, there are some who would want us to believe, and the Deputy Prime Minister, Deputy Political Leader Philip JPS said so in his address earlier today. They want us to believe that it's only in St. Lucia that things are difficult. It is only in St. Lucia that unemployment is high. It is only in St. Lucia that gas prices are high. It is only in St. Lucia that the economy is weak. But let's listen to what some of the other prime ministers across the region have said. Dominica's Prime Minister, Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, had this to say when he presented his budget just in July of this year. This is what Prime Minister Skerrit said. Madam Speaker, since 2008, we have been in the grips of a global crisis, which has left its mark on both developed and developing countries. At this time, we all thought that it would be short-lived. That has not been the case. What was once unusual is now commonplace, for we have been dealing with these issues for 5 years now. As Brother Philip JPS said, just last month, the Minister of Finance in Barbados, Christopher Sinclair, said this. He said, to put the decline in perspective, despite some green shoots in 2010 and 2011, the unanticipated depth and duration of the current global recession has meant that on average, real economic activity has fallen by 1% every year since 2008. This is a Minister of Finance from Barbados saying that for the last 5 years, economic activity in Barbados has declined every year by 1% for the last 5 years. Every year in Barbados. Jamaica's Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Portia Simpson Miller, said this in April to her people in Jamaica. Mr. Speaker, the measures required to take our nation forward have made life difficult for many. Doesn't that sound familiar? It sounds almost like what Prime Minister Anthony and the members of Cabinet have been saying. But listen to what Portia Simpson-Miller went on to say. I understand the pain and pressures being faced by most of our people. We will, however, continue to do everything we can to mitigate the effect of the difficult measures we have had to take in order to put right an economy gone wrong. And that's basically what we have had to do in St. Lucia. Take difficult measures in order to put right an economy gone wrong. But the IMF, the International Monetary Fund that we always hear about, in a report in February this year, said about the economies in the Caribbean. Growth in the Caribbean has stagnated in the last 2 decades. That's 2 decades, 20 years. The IMF is saying that growth in the Caribbean has stalled, has come to a halt for the last 20 years. The last rapid growth spurt in the 1980s was fueled mainly by expansion of tourism, banana production, and public investments. Many Caribbean countries face high debt to GDP ratios. So it's obvious, brothers and sisters, that we are living in very difficult economic times worldwide, and this has left our government, your St. Lucia Labour Party government, with no choice but to take some very tough decisions to fix the problems in our economy. Some of these have been painful, like introducing VAT, removing some of the subsidies on rice, sugar, and flour, and as Brother Philip JP has said to you, even with removing some of these subsidies, the cost of rice, sugar, and flour is still cheaper in St. Lucia than it is in many countries around the OECS and the Caribbean. We've had to increase the price of water, and that has been difficult for us. But basically, we had a water company that was bankrupt, a water company that could not pay its bills, a water company that every month Lucelec was threatening to shut down the supply of electricity to Wasco. You know what happens if Lucelec shuts down the supply of electricity to Wasco? Wasco cannot pump water to any one of us, particularly those of us who live on mountains, on hills. And particularly those of you here in Vieux and Dennery who have had to suffer for so long with not having a regular supply of water. The only way we can deal with that problem and ensure that the people of Vieux, the residents of Vieux, the residents of Dennery can have a reliable supply of water is to deal with the problems of Wasco. So it has meant, unfortunately, that we had to increase the price of water. It's not something we wanted to do, but it's something we had to do. You have a dam, the Roseau Dam, that 1/3 of it is mud. It cannot supply water for the north of the island. It's going to cost us money to repair that dam, to take out the mud in that dam, the silt in that dam. All of these things we have had to find money to do. The entire structure of our economy is changing. And I think we can see that in no other place than in agriculture, particularly bananas. In 1990, agriculture contributed 13.9% to GDP. That means of all of the goods and services we were producing in this country, agriculture was responsible for 13.9%. More than 1/10 of the goods and services we were producing in this country came from the agricultural sector, came from the banana sector. Right now, that figure is 2.75%. Gone down from 13% to 2.75%. But there's an interesting story here that I must share with you, and it's interesting because I know our Prime Minister will want to hear this story. During his first term in office, as Prime Minister, Dr. Kenny Anthony and the Labour government took the bold step to privatize the banana industry. This was done because we wanted to introduce greater commercial discipline and competition in the production of bananas. The opposition parties criticized the government non-stop for that position, despite the fact that the European Union, the ones who gave us all of the money to develop our banana sector, the ones who gave us the money to build the IRDCs that we have in Otsa and in Lakai, the ones that gave us the money to put in the irrigation that we have in Roseau and in Cul-de-Sac. The European Union constantly praised the government of St. Lucia for taking a decision to privatize the banana industry. But no, what did we hear? People saying, can you teach a fig more simply CPs, can you teach a fig? Well, we said to them that if Kenny killed bananas, how come that in Dominica and St. Vincent, where there was no privatization, banana production was declining in Dominica and St. Vincent? So si Kenny teach a fig simply see, qui manière fig à more Dominica et St. Vincent aussi? They couldn't answer that question. Well, the most recent information coming out of Windfresh, and it does not give me any satisfaction to say this to you because it is something that tells you where the industry is right now. For this year, weeks 1 to 32, so up until now in St. Lucia, from the beginning of the year in January to now, St. Lucia has exported 7,623 tons of bananas, 3% more than we exported for the same time last year. But you know how much Dominica has exported for this time? St. Lucia, 7,623 tons. Dominica, 974 tons. 41% less than it did last year. St. Vincent, and this is the shocker, 180 tons. 57% less than it exported last year. Qui devrait dire ça pour nous comprendre? Pour l'année ça, la pharmacie ici produit 7,623 tonnes figues. Pour même temps, Pharma Dominique produit 964 tonnes figues et Pharma Cerveza produit 80 tonnes figues. So si Kenny tue figue cette ici, qui manière aujourd'hui jour, industrie figue Dominique et industrie figue Cerveza, j'apprends disparaître. But that is the message that we will continually fed. That is the message of 2006 that partly resulted in the loss of the St. Lucia Labour Party. That Kenny Trey Fig and Nukai resurrect Fig. Well, Fig has not been resurrected. It was not resurrected between 2006 and 2011. Unfortunately, we also had Hurricane Thomas that caused some problems, and now we have Black Sigatoka. But today we have a banana industry in St. Lucia, where unfortunately we have no banana industry in Dominica and St. Vincent. And the reason we have that banana industry is because of the foresight and the vision and the courage of Kenny Anthony when that banana industry was privatized and we had discipline coming into that banana industry. It's not a story that people would like to hear in other places, but it is a very, very serious story. And I think, although you just did it, but I think Prime Minister Kenny Anthony deserves a bigger round of applause for the role that he played in ensuring that today we have a banana. But it's not just Prime Minister Kenny Anthony I want us to commend. I want us to commend another individual, and that is Minister Moses Jabatis for the hard work he has put into revitalizing agriculture and the banana industry. Minister Moses Jabatis, and I know him very well. I've gotten to know him very, very well. We sit very close to each other in cabinet. We speak a lot about issues on bananas and other things. He's not a flashy person. You'll not see him on TV beating his chest or taking credit for banana production. He won't tell you it's because of him banana production has gone up. Every time he speaks, he will tell you that it is because of the team effort and the hard work of our farmers that we have a banana industry in St. Lucia. And he's right, but we cannot discount the leadership that Minister Moses Jabatis has provided so that our farmers feel inspired now to produce bananas. No flash, just hard work. And the same can be said for almost every single minister in the cabinet of St. Lucia. You will not hear Minister Lon Theophilus beating his chest. But Minister Lon Theophilus, if he were to beat his chest, he would tell you that tourism arrivals in St. Lucia are up by 5%. 5% over last year, but even more so. St. Lucia now has more stayover visitors from the United States than Barbados. But that is a man who people said did not know what he was talking about in tourism. But Lon Theophilus, under his guidance and under his leadership, the tourism industry has gone to the point where we have more visitors from the US in St. Lucia than Barbados has. Barbados with its big tourism plan. Another area where we have very serious problems is in the level of unemployment, particularly among our young people. A 2010 report from the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, said that in St. Lucia, unemployment may be as high as 62% for young men under the age of 20. 62%. That means for every 10 men under the age of 20 in St. Lucia, 6 of them are unemployed. That was in 2010. So before they take it and say, Abaliba, Uwesakifet, in 2010, the Labour Party was not in office in 2010. That was a USAID report in 2010. That 62% of young men under the age of 20 were unemployed. And that for men between 20 and 24 and 25 to 34, it was 17% higher than it is for adult men. So that means for 20 to 24 and 25 to 34, it is somewhere in the vicinity, somewhere around 40%. Brothers and sisters, I do not know about you, but this is a frightening level of unemployment in our country among young people, and we have to do something about that. 3 years ago, CARICOM produced a report on youth development, and they said that if in St. Lucia, and they looked at St. Lucia specifically, if in St. Lucia we can reduce the level of unemployment among young people to the same level that it is among adults, then we would have an increase in our GDP of 2.64%. This is why our party in its manifesto, and since we've come into office, has said that our number 1 priority is jobs, our number 2 priority is jobs, our number 3 priority is jobs, because we understand the importance of jobs to our people, and particularly among our young people. Unfortunately, however, in this economy, it is not easy creating enough jobs to bring the unemployment levels down. Those of us who follow news in the United States will know that every month, the news, the information that everybody looks for is how many jobs were created in the United States. President Obama and his massive economy gets blows every month for not creating enough jobs in the United States of America. How do you think it is for us with a small economy, with dependence on very few things to bring in money, with a small market to create jobs? It is a difficult task, but we've not thrown our hands up in the air and given up. No. We have gone about trying to create jobs from a number of different ways. First of all, we've tried to create short-term jobs with Step and Nice for those among us who need immediate relief and who want to have the dignity to be able to provide for themselves and for their families. And anyone in this economy at this time who questions the importance of Step and Nice to the poor people in St. Lucia does not understand what poor people are experiencing. But it's not just short-term jobs we're trying to create. We also understand the importance of creating medium-term and long-term jobs. So that's why we've given generous concessions, and all you have to do is to see what comes out of cabinet every week. Generous concessions to the tourism industry. VAT in the tourism industry is less than it is everywhere else because we understand the importance of the tourism industry to the development of our country. If we did not care for the tourism industry, VAT in the tourism industry would be 15%. We have deliberately kept VAT low in the tourism industry to allow the tourism industry to continue to grow, to continue to develop, and to continue to contribute to our economy, and to continue to provide employment for our people. But it's not just in tourism we've given concessions. We've given concessions in manufacturing. We've given concessions in the agricultural sector, in telecommunications. Today, St. Lucia has 4G. When you have your phone, those of you who have Blackberries, luckily you could get it in Vieux, and you could also get it in Castries. If you have a Blackberry, you'll see, and you would line, you'll see 4G appearing. That 4G means that your Blackberry now has the same ability to get information from the internet that your computer has. That didn't happen by accident. Cabinet gave both Lime and Digital concessions to bring in 4G because we understood the importance of the internet for education, for employment, for people starting their business. And that is how we work. We want to be able to provide long-term employment for the large numbers of young people who graduate from secondary school every year. We want to ensure that we focus our attention on improving the quality of life for our people. Last year, we opened a community access center in Soufrière, and later this year, we will be providing free internet and more computers in that community access center in Soufrière, so that the people of Soufrière will have a place where they can go, those of them who do not have computers, those of them who do not have internet, and will be able to use the computers and access the internet. But we're not stopping in Soufrière. Later on this year, we hope to do the same thing in Canaries, and open a community access center in Canaries, where the people in Canaries will have almost the same facilities that you have in Soufrière. And there are two other places that we plan on doing it. One is in Vieux South. The other one I won't tell you yet. In fact, we're hoping there'll be two more, so I'll keep the suspense going. But this is what your government is doing to ensure that people who do not have the Robert is telling me in Basel, Joseph, that people who do not have the means will be able to use the internet and use technology to get what they want. We've also refocused the National Development Corporation, which we now call Invest St. Lucia, so we can do a better job of attracting foreign investment into this country. There's a lot more work that we have to do. We want to see Le Paradis started again. That Le Paradis hotel that is on the East Coast, we have to get Le Paradis started again. We have to find a way to revitalize the city of Castries and the city and the town, I almost said the city of Vieux, the town of Vieux. We have to get our geothermal development and our wind farms going so that we can reduce the price of electricity, because if we do that, if we can reduce the price of electricity in St. Lucia, our tourism industry automatically becomes more competitive, because one of the biggest costs for the hotels is the cost of lighting and the cost of air conditioning. If you can bring down the price of electricity in this country, our manufacturing sector immediately becomes more competitive. Our agricultural sector immediately becomes more competitive. And our country becomes more attractive for investors, because we can say that St. Lucia has some of the lowest electricity costs. Come and establish your operations in St. Lucia. We also have to reduce our dependence on one source for gas, petroleum, and diesel. And that is what our participation in PetroCarib is all about. I know you've been hearing a lot of talk about PetroCarib and Alba from a lot of people who all of a sudden have become experts on PetroCarib and Alba. Today is not the time or the place for me to go into any detail on PetroCarib and Alba. But what I can tell you is that Antigua, Dominica, and St. Vincent have already received millions of dollars in Alba funds. And these Alba funds have financed several important economic and social projects. And the same goes for PetroCarib in all of these countries plus St. Kitts and Jamaica. In fact, so far, Alba alone has provided roughly $179 million for over 80 social projects in 13 countries. $179 million in 13 countries. St. Lucia is not one of these countries. The amount of money that has come from PetroCarib is even more. And that is why we joined PetroCarib and Alba, brothers and sisters, to ensure that we have more than one source for the supply of petroleum, the supply of diesel, the supply of gas, the supply of cooking gas. So if there's a problem one place, we have also another place. You cannot have all your eggs in one basket. But also, so that we can get access to the funds for the social projects, so that a lot of the social projects we want to see done in every single corner of St. Lucia can be financed through Alba. And it's no secret, we are not getting the kind of aid, the kind of grant funding that we used to get before. When in the 1980s and the 1990s we were getting money from the Europeans and from the Americans and from the Canadians, that money is not there anymore. So when you hear people say, oh, all you're doing is borrowing, and before there was no borrowing because there was grant money before. There is no grant money now. There is work that has to be done. There are roads that have to be built. There are schools that have to be built. There are health centers that have to be repaired. How can we do these things if we do not borrow the money? Back in the 1980s, we were producing 120,000 tons of bananas. That was bringing in $200 million worth of money into this country. Now we're struggling to produce 15,000 tons of bananas. The banana money is not there. We have to find that money from somewhere to be able to invest in our people. So that is why now we have to borrow, because we cannot turn to the Americans, we cannot turn to the Canadians, we cannot turn to the Europeans and say give us grant money, because that grant money is not there.
Much more that can be said this afternoon, quite frankly. We have heard Alva Baptist, and I endorse every word and everything that he has said. Every word and everything that he has said. On that score, I just wish to add that when they try to tell you that Kenny Anthony, so what's the difference between Kenny Anthony, Alan Shastley? Kenny Anthony's father was a white man. It is not the color of Anthony's father that is the issue. Kenny Anthony grew up in Balka and around Chazelle and around Labrie. He played with the children of Balka and Labrie and Chazelle. He grew up in the way of life of those people. He speaks Creole like them.
Very well.
He understands the culture of those people. That's the difference. So the difference when people say to us, why are you not so interested in when Shastley was born? We're not really interested in a real sense about when Shastley was born. But those of you who've been listening to the radio in recent times, first his father on a program immediately after he was elected to the leadership of the UWP, and more recently, I think as late as last week, himself, Shastley, they want to dodge the issue of where he was born. We're not really interested in that. What piques our curiosity is why do they feel so uncomfortable with answering that question? Why are they so uncomfortable? And I can suggest a reason. I suggest that because Shastley feels that he is a stranger to the way of life of the people of St. Lucia. That's the problem that he has. He has a certain discomfort. I know people who were not born close to St. Lucia, of white lineage. They have been in St. Lucia for many years. You know what? Some of them speak Creole.
Some of them speak Creole. You don't first put your hat in the ring to try to become prime minister and then try to learn how the people live and their life and their lifestyle. That's not the way. You do it the other way around. So when Kenny Anthony became prime minister of St. Lucia, he had already been well steeped in the way of life of the ordinary people in St. Lucia. So when he introduced something like the STEP program, and Shasley is just falling short of criticizing those social programs, you can actually feel that he's just holding himself back from an outright onslaught on those programs. When those programs were introduced, they were introduced because of a man who had a deep empathy with the cause of the ordinary man in the country.
I really want to thank all of you. I want to thank the former executive under the leadership of Winnow Joshua, who took over as chairman on the eve of the general election in 2006. I want to thank him for doing a great job and for ensuring that our constituency remained intact. So thanks to him and the executive. And thank you to my constituents for being here this afternoon and for this very special and wonderful tribute that you have extended to me. But I saw some agitation among my colleagues at the front and elsewhere. But I want to tell them that if they watch very closely, some of the projects were repeated more than once. So they need not be unnecessarily agitated, because if you look carefully, some of those pictures, they took them from different angles. All it says to you that a solution of a party must always hold the Vieux South close to its bosom. I know that there is a lot that is going through your mind these days. And I know from time to time, those of you gathered here had a talk. You had a talk about the better days. Well, there was evidence of the better days. You saw some of the projects in Vieux South. But I just want to say to you that when you had a talk, where the better days, then you need to reply to it. You must never let it pass. And I must tell you why you cannot let it pass.
Tell us, boss man.
Too often, I heard some of you say, I don't get my better days here. You might be right. But we must also remember that there are times when there are better days for the country. It is also better days for you. Because, you see, when there's a policy that benefits the country as a whole, all of us benefit from it. When you see, they tell you where the better days, tell them step is back. That is better days. When you see you get your check for the $500 for common entrance for your children that is going on to a secondary school, hold up the check and say, look the better days. When you see your public assistance you're a poor person. When you go and collect your money and they see you by the door and ask you where the better days, tell them you just came from the bank, and since the Labour Party is in office, they raised the public assistance by 25%. Look the better days. And you contractors, if you fought a loan earlier this year, over 25 of you were employed in Vieux. When you see they ask you where the better days, hold up your contract and say, look the better days. And you should never, ever forget. In 5 years when the United Workers' Party was in office, there are only 2 projects that they can say they tried something in Vieux. A little piece of concrete in Bruceville at the back, and of course the Great Wall of Taipei that today it is this Labour Party who has to fix it up. Tell them, all of these things are being done today for Vieux. These are the better days. And today when you see a disabled child, when you go to the special education school, when you go to a home, like I went to a home this morning before coming here in Robert's constituency. 2 houses were burned down and I went to see the family. And in one house was a disabled child. I was able to say to the parent of that child, you will be receiving $250 every month from the government to help you with your child. I just want you to know that when you see any disabled child anywhere in this country, you must know in your heart that your Labour Party is looking after that disabled child. And when you see September comes, this has always been one of my dreams, because it will come soon. When September comes, that every child in Form 4 will get a laptop costing thousands of dollars. Hold that laptop up and say, these are the better days. And it's a historic moment. And I want Robert Wiss and all the reps to be in the schools when the children are handed over these laptops to make sure that they have pictures for posterity.
I wish I was in Form 4.
And I want to tell you, there's no reason why you should be afraid or worried that your child will get a laptop. How about the case with your Upe? Upa with your père, puis je pas qu'à ça servir laptop là pour regarder l'amour à ce laptop. You won't be able to do that. Si personne vole un laptop ça là, et bien si pièce maman décide qu'elle vend le laptop, n'a doit besoin parfait. Puis là quand il y a un petit sigoué un laptop là, et quand il dit nous droitement côté lié. S'il volait, nous quand savent qui vous qui volait, et droitement côté lié. Comme ça. You must not be afraid of it. Always remember that when our children get those laptops, they will be equals to any child anywhere in this world. No single child in the United States, in Canada, in Australia, in England will have an advantage over that child who comes from the man or who comes from Bruceville. They will have no advantage because that laptop will be a great equalizer of knowledge. And this has always been the dream of the Labour Party, the dream to transform education, because we know that it is through the power of education that people can transform themselves and their countries. I walked in Bruceville from 96. I walked through the Mang, the Bacadère, Larry Seuss, Ducamel, Cantonment. I went through those homes. I know what these people went through. I saw it, the poverty. I will never forget that huge drain that went through Bruceville for years, breeding mosquitoes and nothing else. And that's all the people had to breathe. And it took this Labour Party to put an end to it. And I know what these things mean to children who are poor, who are dispossessed, who've never had anything in their lives. That is why this Labour Party must always use the power of education to transform our country and make a difference. But as I told the people of Canarese, I have another dream that I must complete. But I can't do it yet. I want this economy to get stronger. And I'll talk a bit about it in a few minutes. And it is getting stronger day by day. And I want to be in a position that no child, no parent in this country is now given the opportunity to allow their children to sit examinations because they can't pay CXC fees. I want to come, and I want our government to come to the rescue of these children. I want our government to come to the rescue of these parents and to make it possible that they too are not disadvantaged. But I need to work on this economy to get it stronger, to get it better. But you know, Alva said something that is important. And sometimes, when we're in government, we don't understand or see those things. A few days ago, I was out of this country, and I was invited to come to Washington, to go to Washington. And I just want Alan Justin and others to know, I didn't go and see anybody in the State Department. I have no business going to see anybody in the State Department. Not whatsoever. I was invited to witness the commemoration of the historic speech by Martin Luther King.
That's my boy.
It was one of the most poignant and humbling experiences in my entire life. It was for me an incredible experience. It touched my heart, my soul, my spirit, and all it did was to excite my passion for my own country and for our people, and to continue to make a difference in the lives of our people. There were only 2 prime ministers from the region who were invited to that commemoration. It was Perry Christie of the Bahamas and myself.
I had a dream.
And I had the opportunity to listen to former presidents Jimmy Carter, our good friend Bill Clinton,
I had a dream.
President Obama himself, John West, who was an activist with Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King's sister, Oprah Winfrey, Jamie Foxx, Kennedy, the daughter of President Kennedy, and the list went on.
I had a dream.
And I want you to continue to have that dream.
I had a dream. I had a dream.
And it struck me that there were only 2 leaders from the Caribbean to witness that occasion.
I had a dream.
And then I asked myself a simple question. I asked myself, but wait, how on earth did I get there? How did I become part of this audience? Why me and Perry Christie from the Caribbean and not others?
I had a dream.
I had no answer, but I tell you this. I don't know where it came from, but I walked with the honor and with the integrity of seclusion. That was it. Because you see, none of them could have been there untainted. None of them could have walked with the honor and with the integrity that I was able to do. When you asked about better days, well, that too is better days because the outside world know and understand that there is honor, integrity, and dignity in this country. They know that. And never mind the actions that the United States has taken against the police force. We speak to the embassy on the issues on a regular basis. And nearly every time they speak to us, you know what they say to us? They say, Prime Minister, we know it is not your government that was in power when this happened. We know it was not your government. We know that the responsibility is yours now to clean it up. We understand. And they knew full well that if the former United Workers' Party was in office, then the truth will never, ever be known. And there's only one message, one thing that I want to leave with you. You see all this talk about Albert, Jimmy and Alva destroyed so completely and beautifully a while ago. All they're trying to do is to use Alba to shift attention away from what took place in St. Lucia in those years. And let me say this. Every politician in that UWP cabinet, and
unfair that is haunting them. Will the outcome of those investigations explain the link between the politicians who were in office and what happened in institutions? That is what is guiding and explaining the fair. That is why you see they want to talk about Alba. Puis yon pa vle set disye, mane kwestyon sa la, epi ashe we post by kwestyon sa la. That is the heart of that issue. But time will tell and yield the answers that we need.
Right.
And so, I don't want you ever to become impatient or even to feel sorry, because what occurred in St. Lucia in the last 5 years must never ever be allowed to repeat itself again. We must never be cited in any human rights report as committing human rights abuses and ignoring the fundamental rules laid down by our Constitution. It must not be allowed to happen. Where the chips fall, let the chips fall. As simple as that. So I don't want you ever to have any doubt, any anxiety. This government is on a path of righteousness. Because you see, never mind those who tell you that you must not lead a government and be concerned about righteousness and be concerned about morality. We must always be an example to our neighbors and to the rest of the world, because we are different. That's not our history. And righteousness has always been in the arm of the Labour Party. And it must stay there. No matter what the cost is, we must do what is right. And if we have to cleanse this country, then we must cleanse it and not lose the faith and hope that it requires. You know me best, the people of Vieux. You know me better than all other constituencies, although Dalston will contest that. But you know my soul, you know my spirit, you know my heart, you know my weaknesses, you know my strengths. I don't hide anything from you. I go in your homes, I sit on your doorsteps, I sit on your beds, I sit at your tables. There is no home in Vieux that I will shy away from entering. There's no home that I've not extended a welcome. And yes, I believe that Vieux deserves the best. Yes, I believe it. Because I know what it was meant for you over the years. I know the paranoid dislike that United Workers' Party has for you. I know. I know that you suffer in my name. I know. Ask
Ask Robert Lewis. When they went around giving the school subsidies to carry school children up and around, the Vieux children were left out. They were not given subsidies because they thought they were punishing me. They punished you, your entitlements, because it was their way of causing political injury. And you know, and you have gone through that. And they want to make a fuss about our 4-lane strip. They want to make a fuss. What are you looking at, Mr. Buffett? They want to make a fuss about our 4-lane strip. You can call it runway, whatever you like. It was always my dream to fix that main road into Bruceville. But that's another reason. The people of Bruceville need to feel that by what is happening around them, their lives would be elevated. That they would feel different, that they can feel they have a sense of worth, a sense of value. People think the worst about us. But we too need to feel a sense of worth and a sense of value. Today we can use that strip when we have any community event in Beaufort. Whether, of course, it is Jeanette or whatever it is, that at least there is a place that we can call our own. And when you see the flambeaux stepping on it and walking on it, make sure you tell them, better days ahead. I'll tell you something. Once this Labour Party is in office, this Labour Party will not allow the people of Beaufort and the people of the South to be treated as second-class citizens.
Amen.
And I'm not saying that because I happen to be Prime Minister. All of them inside that cabinet understand it, because we talk about it, that this country must be fair to everybody. It cannot be right that some get all and others get nothing. We cannot preach justice and fairness if we don't extend it to all our citizens. And if your hospital is taking time, it is because your Labour Party is making sure that you don't have a second-class hospital. You have as good a hospital as any other in this country. I'll tell you why. I know it's testing your patience. I know it is. And I wish things were different. Things were handled differently. There's some things you have to inherit. When the Flambeaux decided to tackle the hospital, they only allocated $25 million because they said that they would only do part of the hospital. When they realized that this thing is going to cost more, they then jacked it up to $35 million. Couldn't even do half the hospital. When the Labour Party got into office, some $45 million had to be allocated to that hospital. In February or March 2012, I visited the site of that hospital. When I looked at what was going on, I said to the persons who were given responsibility for the hospital, that hospital cannot ever cost $45 million. It will probably reach much higher than that. And lo and behold, as I said in the budget earlier this year, that hospital will end up costing the government of St. Lucia $130 million. And you know what? I will find it. We are finding it. And we will do so because we are determined that the people of the South get a hospital that they truly deserve. No second-class hospital. It must be the best. It must be on par with any that exists. That is the bottom line. And I hope come the new year, we shall see the signs of completion. But I want you to look to the future with confidence. This Labour Party doesn't touch power if it don't make a difference here. And listen, never worry about all the talk criticisms. You don't worry about it. If you're not doing anything of value, you wouldn't have criticisms. Put your minds at rest. But Vieux will continue to be transformed under the Labour Party.
Yeah.
I made a promise to the people of Bruceville that they will get the land on which their houses have been constructed. We promised them way back in 2005. We surveyed the land for them. But they never got it because the Flambeaus insisted that they did not deserve it. They stopped it. This Labour Party will make sure you get that land. We will honor the legacy of Bruce Williams. When after Hurricane Island and the people of Vieux had nowhere to go, he said to them, the hills are empty, occupied to build your homes. I just want Proud to operationalize itself. Then our party, our government, has decided that we have to be serious about decentralizing services. And you heard me in the budget announcing the construction of an administrative complex for Vieux. It will be a magnificent building. I will see to it. I will see to it that it is a building that makes an architectural statement in our community. That you can look at that building and feel a sense of pride. That whatever money NIS put in there, it was worth it because it says something. It has value, it has meaning. Every government office will be in that building, so you will come to a centralized place. And I want to tell you that in that building, there will be a civil registry, and no more will you have to go to Castries. Your government will modernize your town. And whoever had a Freudian slip a while ago and talk about Vieux being a city, well, Vieux is coming of age. And the time is fast approaching when we have to call it a city. You know, there has been no investment in housing in Vieux for a while. Nothing has been happening. You know the Flambeaus, they taunted me years ago over the lands by St. Jude, which the Labour government had allocated for the people of Vieux. Never happened. Big Sod Turning attacked me because I didn't go. Well, you have good reason now to understand why I didn't go. Nothing happened. But I want to tell you that come next year, the government of St. Lucia will put in the infrastructure, build the roads and build the drains. And lots will become available to the people of Vieux and the people of St. Lucia. I spoke about confidence, why you need to be confident about your government. And I want to touch a little bit on the airport. Devotions are very unusual. I would probably surprise most of the persons from outside of this constituency when I tell them that devotions never regarded UNO Airport as their own. Never. never felt it was part of their community. And part of the reason for that is that those who are charged with the management of the airport never attempted to integrate the airport into the community. So at Vieux, people in Castries feel Vieux is their own, they call it their own. Not the people of Vieux. They see you in our airport as an intrusion. An intrusion into their community. But we will change that. We're going to change that. With the planned work that should start in the next few weeks. The first thing we're going to do is to provide a new facility for the small jets that are coming in to Vieux and using Vieux as a base. And I'm talking about the rich who come in now to go to the hotel, Sugar Bay, Soufrière, or Ladera, and other hotels. We're going to construct what you call an FBO, and hopefully within the next 8 weeks or so, we should have the sub-turning ceremony. That is the first facility that will be constructed. Hopefully next year, March, April, you should see the start of the resurfacing of the runway. And I want to explain to you too why this government is different. You see, they were busy with airport terminal because that is where the election money was coming from. 3.5%. But the bank blocked them. The bank refused to give them the loan for the airport. And that is why, that is one of the reasons Guy Joseph does not like the head of Stephenson King. Because Guy Joseph was attacking Stephenson King and telling Stephenson King, whatever he do, he must start the airport before the elections. That is the only way he could give Kenny Anthony a loan. And he blames Stephenson King for that. Because their interests and also the interests of Alan Chasney. There is a story to be told there, you know. But you have too much tonight. After Alva say what you have to say, I ain't going to go there tonight. I will go there when I'm ready. I will go there when I'm ready. But there's a story there, you know. A story about trips all over the place, you know. The 3.5% of the $400 million, the runway was falling apart.
2 months I was just late.
Cracks were appearing on that runway, particularly in the extension that was constructed by the Canadians. Now, we have to attend to. Again, it's a job of the Labour Party. It is the responsibility of the Labour Party. So come early next year, we should be spending somewhere around, I assume, 54, 55 million, maybe more, maybe less, to repair that runway.
From devotions.
And then will come the terminal building. Now, no terminal building is going to cost $400 million. Something had to be wrong. Rap Gonzalez is going to build a terminal building in St. Vincent for $50 million. The government of Antigua is building a terminal building, $55 million. How come St. Lucia constructing or was constructing a terminal building for $400 million. How come? But let me keep telling you. When I tell you that fellas have no feel, Slasper brought me a design of the terminal building in the Flavo period. And when you look at the roof of the terminal, it's like the whole roof is round and round and round. It's like when you take, what do you call this thing? When you fixing up the road and you... No, you put for the water to flow, man. It's like you take some big galvanized culverts, cut them in half. I told Slasper that if we are going to construct a terminal building in Vieux, if you're going to spend all that money, and I don't want any additional money, but my goodness, the St. Lucian people deserve better. You need a terminal building that can lift the spirits of people, lift the environment, that when St. Lucians come and visit, they feel that they have a building they can be proud of, not a building they see everywhere else. You need architecture that lifts the spirit of the people, that captures the soul and spirit of the people, that changes the environment, but makes use of it. And so, in the next few weeks, we'll start to look at the designs to make a final decision. What I'm trying to tell you is that in the next few months, Vieux will be a center of activity. That these are important investments that will come into the community, not only to redefine and reshape the community, but provide some of the badly needed jobs. But meanwhile, my determination is to improve the quality of life. I have said before that in politics, you come into it for all kinds of reasons. But there's one thing that will define you as a politician. You can serve for 15 years, 10 years. When the time comes and you must make your departure, or when the time comes, you're forced to make your departure. The question you should ask yourself always is this: did I change the quality of life? Did I make a difference in the lives of the people that I represented? That's the simple test. That is the simple test. And that is how you must judge my representation. You must judge the representation of any other parliamentarian by asking that simple question: did he or she change the quality of life? I am comforted. I know the answers to some of those questions. I know that when school opens on Monday and I watch the little children going to a secondary school and not being denied a place in a secondary school, I know that this Labour Party changed the quality of life. I know that when I go to have, yeah. Caregiver, te passe ek banti ben pou yo ti dak manje ba man. Because this government has employed caregivers throughout the length and breadth of this country to look after our elderly. That is the better thing. I know. When I walk in and see roads I've never seen before, when concrete replaces dirt and water, and people and children can play on these roads, I know I have changed the quality of life. I know when a person who's mentally ill now goes to seek medical attention and goes to our mental wellness center, we have changed the quality of life because we are treating them as human beings. I know when we can have a national stadium and we can host the Commonwealth Games, because without a stadium you can't host it. I know this Labour government has changed the quality of life. I know that when people are ill, when they have hypertension, when they have diabetes, and I know when they can't afford medicines and they can get it free, then I know this Labour government has changed the quality of life. You know, I can spend a night here and talk about all of these things. But my mission in life, to you the people of Vieux, has always been this: helping you to change the quality of life, making